For the past 45 years, the Ford F-Series has been the best-selling nameplate in America, which makes it one of Ford's most important vehicles in their North American lineup. Now, with the industry continuing to move toward full battery electric vehicles, we knew it would only be a matter of time before we got an all-electric version of the F-150. And today, the day has finally come because I'm out here in San Antonio, Texas with the all-new 2022 F-150 Lightning. It brings back a familiar nameplate that we haven't seen since Ford's SVT days. However, unlike its predecessors, this plucks out the internal combustion engine and replaces it with a large 131 kilowatt-hour battery pack, which means up to 320 miles of range and nearly 600 horsepower. So if you guys have been looking for an all-electric truck for the masses, is this all-new F-150 Lightning the perfect vehicle? Stay tuned to find out. Now, in the world of all-electric trucks, the segment is pretty small right now. We only have vehicles like the Rivian R1T and the GMC Hummer pickup truck. However, if you're trying to find one of those vehicles, it's going to be really tough because there aren't very many out on the road. This is essentially the first mass-produced all-electric truck that you're going to start seeing out on the road very, very quickly because they are heading to Ford showrooms now. And unlike the two other vehicles, which are kind of more bespoke all-electric trucks that are built off of a unique battery electric platform, Ford essentially took a regular gas-powered F-150 here to create the Lightning, which means they can build these a lot faster and they can also build them at the same assembly plant. So this is built in Detroit, Michigan, unlike most of the competitors. And unlike the Mustang Mach-E, this is riding on its own unique platform using its own unique battery packs and electric motors. So let's first talk about the styling of this vehicle. I'll get into the powertrain and the charging specs later on. This particular one that I'm showing you is the Lariat trim level. There's going to be about 4 different trims of the Lightning, starting at the base Pro to the XLT to the Lariat, and then of course the fully loaded Platinum model. This is kind of the mid-grade version, although it has been optioned up with a lot of extras that makes this truck very, very pricey, but also puts it really in line almost with a Platinum. Let's start, of course, with the front fascia. Because this is an all-electric vehicle, you no longer need that massive grille. So instead, Ford puts a very unique closed-off grille with a kind of gray anodized finish to the grille itself. It's kind of a pewter gray finish. Every trim level of the Lightning gets its own unique grille finish. The Platinum version will kind of have a black chrome finish to the grille. You can see the headlights are full LED, even on the base Pro trim. However, if you guys go for an XLT and up, you'll have a unique lighting signature that you can see connects the two headlight modules together with this individual piece, along with LED low and high beams, LED turn signals. Overall, it's a very conventional look, but it also looks modern. You can tell this is definitely a unique F-150. There are some functional openings here, of course, for aerodynamics. You do have functional tow hooks here, and you can also get this vehicle with the usual off-road capability stuff that you want because this is a truck. Now, in terms of the dimensions of this vehicle, the truck is roughly pretty similar to a regular F-150. So this is about 80 inches wide, and for now, Ford is only going to offer the truck in one cab configuration and one bed length. So basically, you can buy it as a 4-door crew cab with a 5.5-foot bed, which means the overall length is around 232 inches long. It's got around 146-inch long wheelbase compared to the GMC Hummer EV that I just drove and a Rivian R1T, which I haven't had a chance to drive yet. This truck is about 15 inches longer, so it's a little over a foot longer, which means it won't technically fit into some standard size garages, but this is about the same size as most of the other F-150s, so people are going to be really familiar with the size and profile of the Lightning. Looking at the wheels, Ford offers a choice between an 18-inch wheel at the base end to these 20-inch wheels that you get on the Lariat. These are going to give you the better range, 320 miles. It's wrapped in 275/60 series mud and snow all-season tires. There is also a 22-inch wheel if you guys go for the Platinum. That wheel definitely looks better in my eyes, but it does lower the range to 300 miles. So these wheels are kind of like the nice middle ground where you could probably slap some nice all-terrain tires. If you guys are looking for the charge port, it is right here on this side of the vehicle. On the other side, there's an identical looking lid. However, that's just there for show. It doesn't actually open up. There's only one charge port on the vehicle. You can see along the side profile here, it has the usual look of the F-150 with that kind of cut line on the front windows that aids with the visibility. You can also get tow mirrors on this vehicle. You can see this one doesn't have it, but it has the LED turn signals. You have the nice running boards to help you get into the truck, and all Lightnings have roughly just under 9 inches of ground clearance. There is no air suspension available. However, because the frame has been fully redesigned to accommodate that large battery pack underneath the floor, we now have an all-independent suspension at the back, and those are beefy suspension components to allow this thing to carry and tow heavy loads and to accommodate the large battery pack. We'll talk about the ride and handling, of course, later on. Now, looking at the side profile, you'll also see this really beautiful Lightning badge, actually. I love the way Ford designed the look of this Lightning badge with the blue at the back. It even shows a lightning bolt in the T. I love how Ford is taking an old name and bringing it into the modern 21st century. They're basically electrifying their iconic vehicles, their classic vehicles, which I think Ford is doing a great job at so far. Now, looking at the rear, you can see the tail lights. Also, pretty familiar F-150 stuff here, but you have that same design philosophy where you have this piece here that connects the two taillight modules together. They're all LED. You can see you have an LED turn signal, you have LED reverse lights here, and the truck also shows this really nice electric badge here, this lightning bolt with the American flag, because again, this truck is built in Michigan. It's not built in Mexico, for example, like the Ford Mustang Mach-E. And then you can see here, tow package is also available. There's like a $1,400 max tow package. This truck here will tow a maximum of 10,000 pounds. Now, the tailgate's pretty similar to every other F-150. You do have that power actuated tailgate where you can open it remotely from the fob. And then of course you have their signature tailgate step, which is great for shorter folks like myself. And getting into the bed, there's also a really nifty built-in ruler in the actual tailgate itself. And then getting inside the bed, you can see my tester has the spray-on bed liner, which is still like another $600 extra. I imagine most owners are gonna get that. You can basically haul a maximum of 2,300 pounds in this truck, which is a little bit more than Ford's claim. I believe they originally said 2,000, so it's really nice. There's a total of 8 tie-down clamps in this, or tie-down points in the actual bed. You can also get it with a bed extender and whatnot. There's a bunch of LED lighting over here. And then over here, I want to show you guys this, because this is something that's really cool to the F-150. You guys have seen, I'll show you guys the Pro Power on board. This truck takes it a step further. Because it's all electric, you can see 2 ports there, and there are 2 ports here, and then there's actually a level 2, a 240 here, where you could charge another electric car up to 30 miles an hour, for example. This will feed about 9.6 kilowatts, so 9,600 watts of power is a lot. You can power lots of things if you guys go to a campsite, or you can even charge an electric car. This is a very unique feature that not all the competitors offer, and basically for the Lightning, they take it up to the next level by giving you even more wattage to take advantage of that larger battery pack. So now let's talk about a couple of unique selling features about the F-150 Lightning. I'll talk about the powertrain specs, the battery specs, and that massive power frunk in just a moment. However, if you guys are interested to know in the charging capabilities and the unique proposition where this car could potentially power your home for up to 3 days, let's talk about the charging infrastructure. Because if you guys pony up the 10 grand for the extended range battery pack, that'll include this Charge System Pro system. This basically allows you to set this up at your home. It's included if you guys get the bigger battery. It's like $1,300 extra if you guys go for the standard range battery. And this allows you to charge it up to 80 amps if your house electrical system supports it, which means you can charge that massive 131 kilowatt hour battery pack in about 8 hours from empty to full, versus 13 hours if you guys use a 48 amp system. The unique thing about the Charge System Pro is it has, as you can see, the DC current at the bottom. This is a CCS connector. This is not because this car will charge on a level 3 at home. That's not allowed. You have to go to a public charging station. But because it has this, it's going to charge off of the standard J1772 plug. It plugs right in. Basically, when you plug it in, if your house happens to lose power, if you have a rolling power outage, which can happen wherever you live, basically that DC plug is going to take power from the truck and automatically start powering your home. Now, how does it do that? And how does it switch automatically? Well, you're going to need one of these. This is the home system integration that Ford is going to offer for about $3,900 extra. This is extra. You have to have an electrician come to your house and install this. But basically what that means is if you lose power, this system will automatically switch from power coming from your power company or local power company to power coming from the truck. And Ford says that with that massive battery pack, you can essentially run your home for up to 3 days. That's using about 30 kilowatts a day. If you guys are going to be on vacation and you're not going to be using quite as much power, Ford says it could run for up to 10 days. But this feature here is definitely a game changer, and it's really going to allow a lot of new customers to come into the Ford Lightning camp because of that unique feature. Now let's go ahead and talk about the powertrain specs, because this massive power frunk is a game changer. In fact, it's electronic, as you can see. Ford says there's 14.1 cubic feet of space in here. 14.1 is about the same as what you're gonna find in vehicles like a Honda Accord, a Honda Civic, a Toyota Camry. The frunk is huge. You could literally fit like a scooter in here, or perhaps even a wheelchair if you folded it up. Ford says you can also fit 2 golf clubs in here if you guys are also golfing. And you can see there's also a little bit of underfloor storage in the frunk. Ford tells us that engineering this engine compartment, where used to be an engine compartment, to house this massive frunk was probably the biggest design feat for the engineering team. You can see there's also power outlets in here. This has up to 2.4 kilowatts or 2400 watts. You can see there's 4 outlets, there's 2 USB charging ports. This runs off of the Pro Power on board, where you can essentially charge something in here that you have stored in here, which is great. This provides the covered space that a lot of people are looking for, but since I have this open, let's go ahead and talk about the powertrain specs. The Lightning will launch with two different battery options. The standard range model is a 98 kilowatt hour battery pack. The larger one, the extended range for 10 grand, is about 131 kilowatt hours. That is the usable capacity. Ford is not telling us what the gross capacity is at this time, but they have improved the horsepower numbers of the Lightning since they first launched it. The standard range model is going to offer 452 horsepower, while the extended range model like this one will offer up to 580 horsepower. That is significant power figures. In fact, the base Lightning is more powerful than an F-150 Raptor, which is just crazy to think about. Both models will have 775 pound-feet of torque, which is just an insane amount of power. They all run off the 400-volt architecture, and all Lightnings sadly do not have a heat pump. Ford says that they're probably going to skip generation 1 for heat pump. They're going to introduce a second gen at some point that should improve the range even further. But regardless, this is still a relatively efficient vehicle for a truck. Ford says with the standard range battery, you'll do about 230 miles on a full charge. Go for a Lariat or an XLT with the extended range, and the 20-inch wheels are smaller. You'll do 320 miles. Those of you who go for a Platinum will do about 300 miles on a full charge. Now, those numbers are pretty competitive with the Rivian R1T and, of course, the GMC Hummer EV super truck. The Hummer, however, has a massive 200 kilowatt-hour battery pack, so you have to look at the efficiency of the F-150. Because this is built off of the 400-volt architecture, it doesn't charge quite as quickly as the Hummer or the Rivian. This will accept a maximum of 150 kilowatts if you guys find a level 3 fast charger, which means you can essentially go from 15 to 80% charge in about 41 minutes if you guys find an Electrify America station or a DC fast charger. Ford says when you purchase this vehicle, it'll come with about 250 kilowatts free, which is going to be the equivalent of about 2 to 3 free charging stations at a public charging station. The F-150 Lightning obviously is a truck, so towing capacity is a maximum of 10,000 pounds if you guys go for the Lariat. It's about 7,700 if you guys go for the standard range battery pack. The Platinum also drops that because of how all the equipment it has. Payload capacity is max at around 2,300 pounds, which again is a little bit more versus what Ford predicted. This is essentially built off the same assembly line as the regular F-150, and Ford also says it doesn't share any batteries or motors with the Ford Mustang Mach-E. This is a unique system for the Lightning. It's built specifically for this truck. It even has a different battery supplier versus the Mach-E, which I believe they use LG. This is SK, so it's a different battery supplier. And regarding performance, the base battery pack, the standard range, should get to 60 in about 5 seconds. This extended range should do it in about 4.5 seconds. We'll get this out on the road. We'll test out Ford's claim later on. And because this is an electric truck where they plucked out essentially the gas engine and the fuel tank and put big heavy batteries, this is a heavy beast. It weighs in at just under 7,000 pounds. However, that is still significantly lighter versus the Hummer, but this weighs roughly the same as the Rivian R1T. So moving to the interior of the new F-150 Lightning. First of all, the running boards really help shorter people like myself get in. They are lit up, but they don't have the retractable function that you find on some of the gas-powered models. Surprised it doesn't, but getting inside, you can see with the 9 inches of ground clearance, it has a pretty high step-in height. When I get in and shut the door has a nice solid sounding thunk. It basically feels like the regular gas-powered F-150 until you look at the screens, which I'll talk about in just a moment. Now, here's the key fob for the truck. You can see this is the typical key that we've seen on all the other Ford products. It is a fairly large key. You can see it opens up the front from here. You can also open up the tailgate. No remote start on the fob. However, if you use the Ford Pass app, which I use on the Mach-E that my partner and I own, it works really well. You can also remote start the truck from there. You can also ping the truck. Ford's app is actually very good. So if you guys are an owner of Ford vehicles, they've done a really good job with that piece of technology. Now, starting the truck up, you can see start-stop button is right here where you'd expect it to be. The Lariat includes a power tilt and telescoping steering wheel, which is nice. It also has these really nice leather appointed seats with the kind of two-tone with the black, the gray. These are heated and ventilated seats. I have a 12-way power on the passenger side, an 8-way on the 12-way on the driver's side, 8-way on the passenger. You have this contrast copper stitching. These are kind of like not the middle seats, it's one grade below the Platinum. The Platinum offers an even higher quality leather and massaging seat. So if you want that feature, you need to go for that fully loaded Platinum grade. But you can see this Lariat is certainly a nice place to spend time. The door panel has this really interesting kind of leatherette faux material with the contrast stitching. It definitely looks like leather, but when you touch it, you can definitely tell it's a fake leather material. There's also some very interesting wood-like look trim. I believe the Platinum has real wood. The Lariat, I question if it's real wood. You can see the window controls, automatic one touch for both front windows. The rears, however, are not one touch. I would have liked to see Ford add a full one touch for all four of the windows, especially considering the price point of this vehicle. The steering wheel, you can see, is the typical F-150 steering wheel. It's got controls for your Ford Copilot 360, which this particular one here has been upgraded to include Blue Cruise, which is a new feature you can also get on the gas F-150s. The power tilt and telescoping feature gives you a good amount of adjustability and range, so I can kind of get comfortable. The horn sounds pretty typical. It I think is befitting of the size of this truck. And then you can see here, all the Lightnings basically come with some really great tech, which let me talk about that in just a moment. I do want to mention that same material is on the dashboard over here where it has that kind of copper stitching. It's hard touch, but this is a leather material. This, however, here is hard touch and it feels a little bit on the cheaper side. So again, I was kind of expecting Ford to kind of cost cut a little bit on the interior, but this is also a truck. You do have some aluminum look trim here. You have another glove box over here where you can hide a couple of things. And then over here on the center stack, you can see this is essentially the same 15.5-inch screen that you find in the Ford Mustang Mach-E. This is an optional screen. If you guys go for a baser model of the Lightning, you'll have a 12-inch display, which is kind of like a more traditional look. That's the same screen that you'll find in the other gas-powered F-150s. This screen looks really good in this car. With the massive dash, you can see it fits nicely in here. It runs on Sync 4A, which means you have wireless Apple CarPlay, which you can see it's loaded up right now. Wireless Android Auto. You can also expand the CarPlay screen or compress it if you'd like. I really like it when it's on the bigger display. This is something they first added on the Mach-E, the GT versions. And then you also have a fully digital 12-inch display over here, which again looks really modern. The graphics are crisp. You can also kind of customize the way this looks here to put exactly what you'd like. You can also put like truck info here. You can show towing, pitch and roll, power distribution for when you're just driving this truck out on the street, or you can also show off-road stuff. It also shows you your range and your critical information. This is all very important stuff, and it looks very, very modern in here, so I really like that. Going over here, you can see if I tap the Lightning or the truck display there, you can see all your different drive modes. There are a total of 4. There's no unbridled mode, obviously, and there's also a one-pedal drive feature. You can also unlock and lock that locking differential, which again, it's not really a true locking differential. It's kind of a simulated one. One thing this car is missing is like a propulsion sound that you get on the Mach-E, but we'll talk about that later on when we go into the driving scene. There's also a couple of different towing options here. We've seen that on the other gas F-150s. There's also onboard scales. This is an interesting thing that I hadn't seen on the other F-150 models. This actually will tell you how much weight is in the back, which is really cool. I've never seen that before in any other truck, and that's a really great way to make sure that you're not overloading your truck. That's something that people tend to do, especially if you see those trucks doing that Carolina squat thing. That's definitely a thing. So that's a really great thing. It really makes this truck very usable out in the real world. The zone lighting is where you can basically light up different zones of the vehicle. If you guys are at a workplace at night, late at night, or you're working late, you can kind of basically light up whatever side of the truck that you'd like. There's also the Pro Power on board feature here, which shows you how much wattage you're actually using from the front circuit or from the back circuit. You can also turn on a reserve feature where it'll actually stop putting out electricity when you set the battery at a certain level. So if it starts to fall below that charge, it'll stop giving you power, which is again a great option. There's also that intelligent backup power, which I showed you guys before, allows you to basically power your house if you guys happen to run out of power again. So a lot of different settings in here. You can also adjust the driver assistance. You can also adjust the ambient lighting in this vehicle. Ford only gives you one color, which is blue, unlike the Mach-E that gives you so many different colors. So this all works fairly well. I also like how the climate control is kind of integrated to the screen. Unlike the Mach-E, you do have cooled seats in here, which is really nice. Where you can basically use this slider here. The cooled seat also works really well, which is nice, especially out here in Texas, where it's incredibly hot already in May. There's also a heated steering wheel here. And then if I put the truck into reverse, you can see full top-down 360 camera with its perimeter scan. You can also tap that, it'll show you different views. This vehicle also has automatic parallel parking sensors. It has rear cross traffic braking. So all of the usual safety tech features. However, you do need to go up to the higher trim to get Ford's Blue Cruise to get that as an option. Down here on the center stack, you can see there's a nice lid here that closes up, but if you open that up, you'll find a wireless phone charging pad, 2 USB and charging ports, a USB-A and a USB-C, and then just like the gas F-150, I can push that button there that folds the shifter down. Surprised Ford's using a traditional shifter, and I can open this up to give me kind of like a table, a work space, or for those of you who like to eat in the car, you can kind of use this for a place to put your lunch. along with these massive cup holders. This is also covered with a nice padded material with that same faux leather. If I open this up, you can see huge center console storage where you can basically put like a laptop, a person here, a bag, a coat, whatever you'd want, and you can hide it all in here. And this is also a lockable space. There's also cup holders back here, which is a great addition. And then over here on the glove compartment side, you can see it's a bin style. It's not quite the largest, but again, you have 2 glove boxes and plenty of other storage in this vehicle, which is why so many people love these trucks. Now, the B&O sound system in this car has around 10 speakers, or I'm sorry, 12 speakers. If you guys go for the Platinum, you get an 18 speaker unit, which is the more high-end option. So that's another reason why you want to go for that. And then above me here, you can see big panoramic sunroof. It's optional on this trim, but it is standard on the Platinum. You also have a power retractable shade. And if you'd like, you can also completely open this. So remember, a lot of electric vehicles don't let you open a sunroof. Thankfully, they allow that on the Lightning. You can see it opens up fairly good amount over just the front seats, but love how Ford allows you to do this. So overall, the interior has all the tech that I basically expect. Really great graphics, really great driver assistance, pretty decent materials, comfortable seats, and good visibility. So Ford really brought it here. The exterior may not look all that special in terms of looking like an electric vehicle, but the inside certainly makes you feel like you're driving a modern piece of equipment here. Now, because Ford only offers the Lightning as a 4-door crew cab configuration, there's a ton of space in the back seat. Before I get into the truck, let me show you guys the space underneath here. It's just like the gas-powered model. There's actually a little partition here you can flip up, you can lock in place. It's not covered storage, but it is really nice to put items here that might be muddy, dirty, tools, for example. And then when you want to use the actual seat, just pull on this little strap here, and that will put the seat down. Now, in terms of leg space, if you guys have tall friends or tall family members, you can see there's around 44 inches of legroom back here. So there's just a massive amount of space. And I also love how there's a completely flat floor here. And because the truck is so wide, you can easily fit 3 people across, even if they're of wider frame. And this limited model that I'm sitting in has some pretty nice touches. You can see the moonroof allows for a lot of light. The materials back here are the same as the front seats. I also like how the windows are tinted. There's LED accent lighting back here, and then you also have rear seat air vents. You have an actual 12 volt there, but traditional USBs and a power outlet over here. You also have 2-level heated seats. I'm not entirely sure if Ford offers cooled seats. That's something you find on its competitors in the back seat. I'll have to go double check a Platinum to see that, but you can see opening up the armrest here, fold this down. There are 2 cup holders, so if you just want to fit 2 people across, you can. And then this window also slides open and back. It doesn't roll down like you might find in the Tundra, but again, it gives you that kind of versatility. So if you guys are looking to use this vehicle as a family car, it certainly will fit that bill. All right, so Rob and I are back in the state where everything is bigger, truck country. We're here in San Antonio, Texas, with, of course, the most important new vehicle launch, I think, of the decade, the 2022 F-150 Lightning. Now, I've been really excited to drive this truck. Rob and I had a chance to drive the GMC Hummer Super Truck, which we were pretty impressed with. We think that this is definitely going to be the vehicle that everybody's going to want because it's just so much more useful. Now, we're starting out the drive at about 90% charge right now. We're going to do our 0 to 60 test. When we started it out, this truck had a full charge and it was showing about 317 miles on a full charge. Now it's showing 261 because we traveled about 40 miles or so. So the battery's still relatively full charged. The Ford engineer, her name's Linda, told us that the battery supplier is different versus the one in the Mach-E, and it doesn't have that 5-second rule. So this one here with the extended range battery pack should do 0 to 60 in about 4.5 seconds. So let's go ahead and see what we can actually do here. Ooh. Wow, this thing is definitely fast off the line. 4.18 seconds. Well, now.
No matter how fat I am when you have that much torque, so
4.18. So it's a smidge quicker than Ford's claim. Remember, this is the extended range battery pack, which means we have 580 horsepower, 775 pound-feet of torque. This thing actually almost feels as quick as my Mach-E GT, as the one that Keith and I have, and it's really impressive that this big, heavy truck accelerates that fast. In fact, it actually, I think, accelerates faster. Remember the Hummer EV truck? It didn't feel all that fast unless you used the W2TF.
5.2.
It was about a second slower. Like this, you put your foot down, the front lifts up, and it just gives you continuous power at full throttle. And it's like there's no delay, there's no. You don't see any power bars that are showing you the prison bars like it does in the Mach-E GT. It's just Instant torque. That is fantastic. Don't worry, it's not going to fall off. It's stuck on there. But yes, this vehicle is amazing to me how Ford took essentially a gas-powered vehicle and turned it into an electric truck. And because it's not built on a bespoke platform, it does have an updated frame, completely new suspension. It's got fully independent suspension. So this is the first time we're seeing that on an F-150. No air suspension, but I do notice the ride in this vehicle is very comfortable, but it's also a little bit on the floaty side, especially out on the highway. We were out there earlier and the ride was a little like bouncy, but it's a good kind of bouncy because it's comfortable, but like even in sport mode, it doesn't really feel all that sporty. So that's something to keep in mind. All right, so just because we can, I want to do another 0 to 60 run because I want to see if this truck can do it consistently in that low 4-second mark. So full stop, floor it. The front actually lifts up. Everything's falling. God, 4.15 seconds there. That is very impressive. I mean,
that was a little bit of wheel spin.
That was no, that was the front. The front wheels were lifting up, and I could feel like the steering was actually tugging a little bit at me.
Did it cut power at all?
No. Well, like the stability control the traction control was cutting it a little bit, but that is hilarious. I mean, very impressive considering that straight line acceleration isn't this car's party trick. I mean, that's what Hummer touts up with the GMC. Remember the Rivian R1T, which we haven't driven yet. I'm hoping that we get a hold of that truck in a couple months. They're promising me one this summer. Those trucks will do it in 3 seconds, about 3.1. The fact that this is only a second slower, and I mean, this is not slow, Rob. Like, this is like stupid fast for a vehicle that weighs almost 7,000 pounds. And you know, most of you aren't going to be driving like this. Keep in mind, I've had the vehicle in sport mode, which the different drive modes, the F-150 is pretty light on drive modes. It has normal and sport for the road, and there's off-road and tow, which we'll try that tomorrow when we drive this truck. There's also the one-pedal drive feature, which I have it on right now, and it is just like the one in the Mach-E. It has very strong regen. Put your foot down again. It's just like the torque is just immense. I mean, this is going to, if you're a contractor or a construction worker or whatever, and you're getting your first electric truck, this is going to blow your mind with the acceleration that this thing offers. It's just absolutely insane. All right, let's see if we can have it to be a little bit, let's see how the traction is this time. Full stop. Still spinning the front tires. Oh, God. 4.14 seconds there. I hope you have digested your lunch, Rob.
I'm about to do it again. Oh, God.
Wow, I would never get tired of this, and the fact that it's only about a half a second slower than the Mach-E GT that Keith and I have, it is about a little more slower, like not a full second slower than your Model Y Performance, but this thing...
At speed, it feels just as fast.
It feels very potent.
Maybe it's the size of the car tricking you, but it feels like this would be neck and neck with my car at speed, anything above 60, 70.
Right, because every time you put your foot, the whole truck, the whole front end lifts up. It shows you how soft the suspension is tuned out, but it's impressive. It is very, very impressive. The one-pedal drive also works well. This truck also feels incredibly refined. So let's go ahead and, enough with the flooring it, we'll go into the normal drive mode here, and we'll drive it like a typical F-150 Lightning customer would probably drive this truck, which means you're just going to be cruising along on big wide open roads like this, or out on the interstate. We'll drive this out on the highway later on, try out the Blue Cruise. The steering in the truck feels really nice. It's actually very quick and direct. It's electric power steering. The suspension gives you that nice ride. The independent setup in this thing is really a huge game changer for F-150. The ride quality is just so smooth. No longer do you need to have like a bunch of crap in the back weighing down the truck to give you that smooth ride. Should Ford have put like an air suspension in, like what Hummer does in the Hummer EV? I don't really think it's necessary, but I would like to see the suspension get a little bit firmer, especially in sport mode. It doesn't really do that. But in terms of refinement, it's pretty quiet in here, especially compared to the Hummer EV, which had a ton of road and tire noise and wind noise because of those glass panels. Obviously, we're on this really crappy pavement right now, so it's a little bit louder than usual. But if you guys are used to driving a regular F-150, this is going to feel pretty much the same, except for the fact that there's no engine noise. It has instant torque. You can basically smoke that sports car or supercar that's right next to you at the light. And it also looks like a regular F-150. Now, we are in truck land here in Texas, and not really anybody has looked at this thing, and that could be a good thing. I mean, if you want your truck to stand out, don't buy this. Go buy a Cybertruck or a Rivian. or the Hummer EV, maybe that'll even stand out more than this. But this, the fact that Ford took a gas platform and they converted it to electric, it's got its own unique batteries from the Mach-E, its own unique motors. It has really good handling also for a big truck. Now, in terms of the weight, I feel obviously that, like, I've driven regular F-150s multiple times. This definitely feels a little bit heavier, but it also doesn't feel as fat as the Hummer EV. So I think Ford did a really good job there at masking the weight. The seats are also really comfortable. These are the seats that you get in the Lariat model. They don't have the massage function, so if you want to spend an extra 10 grand, go for the Platinum that gives you the massaging seats. Ford's isn't the best, so I actually wouldn't mind skipping the massaging seats. What I don't like about the Lariat are the wheels. I would change out the wheels, but these 20-inch wheels give you 320 miles of range versus 300. And unlike the Mach-E, there's no propulsion sound in this vehicle. I was kind of thinking that Ford should have done one. I mean, Rob, you said that, you know, truck buyers may want something that sounds like a fake V8.
They want something that'd be more comfortable.
Maybe if you're coming from a Raptor, sure. Like
maybe the HVAC system or something, but at idle, I felt like at low speeds, I felt like I heard something that seemed just like a very low rumble. I don't know if that's...
I love how you said idle. Like this thing has an engine that idles.
You know, at 0 RPM on the electric motor.
You might be hearing the motors themselves. They're probably making that kind of noise. I think the one in the Mach-E does that kind of as well. But yes, this is all quiet. Should Ford have added some kind of propulsion sound? It would have been nice, but that's something surely they could add later on as part of a software update. The 15-inch screen here also works really well. The screen itself is perfect for the size of this cabin, and it's also in a great position. I mean, really, I have very little complaints. This is, to me, drives exactly how I expected it to, but it also exceeds my expectations in terms of performance. Ford essentially took what they learned from the Mach-E in battery tech and charging and how owners use this vehicle, and they've essentially upped their game. Now, really where this truck does fall flat a little bit is the DC fast charging. It only runs on the 400-volt architecture, and it doesn't have a heat pump. So I suspect those of you who live in colder climates may notice more range loss. However, Ford, remember, is a Michigan-based company, and they've probably done extensive testing as well. So we'll do a full range test when we get this truck for a full week and see what it's like out in the real world. But overall, super impressive, especially for Ford's first like mass-produced all-electric truck. There is plenty to like about this thing. And it's addicting to drive, especially when you can just... Oh, God, I would never get tired of that. I would never get tired of doing that.
Wait till my lunch comes back. I'm not a good passenger.
Don't worry, you can drive next, Rob.
Good.
Now, in order to get to this drive loop, we had to first leave the city of San Antonio, and I wanted to show you guys a quick little scene out on the highway. This is with, of course, Ford's Blue Cruise system on. You can see in the instrument panel it says hands-free. That's how you know the system is on. It's using LiDAR, it's using its cameras and sensors and whatnot to allow you to basically drive on these highways where it has it pre-mapped out, and I can drive completely hands-free. Now, the system does not do lane changes for you, sadly. That's something that GM Super Cruise does. But compared to the one in my Mach-E, I am noticing that it does do a little bit of a better job of keeping us in the lane. As you can see, I'm trying to trust the system. This is a pretty narrow road here in San Antonio, but it works really well. But I do want Ford to add automatic lane changes, and I believe Blue Cruise also does not work if you guys are towing. That's something that GM has touted up with their Super Cruise system, so that's something to keep in mind. Ford's kind of continuously improving that. I also want to show you guys really quick the power out on the highway. Now, this truck has 580 horsepower, and we're going about, highway speeds. Now I'll floor it. It does a pretty good job, actually. This feels faster than my Mach-E GT, than my partner's Mach-E's GT, and that's pretty impressive. I mean, the motors are different motors, and Ford says it doesn't have those prison bars that they put on the Mach-E GT, so it'll give you continuous power for longer than 5 seconds, and because the battery pack is a different supplier, you really feel the noticeable difference in the power delivery out on the highway. So we are now at day 2, and I'm actually in the F-150 Lightning Pro. So this is technically the work truck model. It's got the standard range battery pack, which means we have 452 horsepower. I want to show you guys really quick what this model does 0 to 60, because Ford says 5 seconds, which is not that much slower than the extended range model. So we've got our equipment here. We've got a straight road. Let's see what it can do. Wow, 4.42 seconds. 4.42 in the base truck. Wow, contractors who have never driven an electric vehicle that are upgrading to this, they're gonna have their minds blown. But if you guys want to see a more detailed walk around video on this Lightning Pro, be sure to click on the link in the description below where we talk about everything that you need to know about the under $40,000 work truck version. So with Ford moving nearly 1 million F-Series in North America alone every year, it's pretty easy to see why Ford took so long with developing this F-150. They also know their customer base very well, and after spending some time driving the new F-150 Lightning, I'm pretty pleased with what Ford is offering here. They took a lot of what we like from the Mustang Mach-E and they learned from it. They improved on it. They made this vehicle even better, which they needed to, because the F-150 Lightning is going to be a truck for the masses. This is a truck that I see a lot of people towing with. I see a lot of people hauling stuff with. I do see people taking this vehicle off-road, although being an all-electric truck, I wonder how far off the beaten path you're going to go, because there's not really any DC fast charging stations on those trails. But I have to say, what really blew me away with the F-150 Lightning is the performance. 0 to 60 in 4.1 seconds is just stupid fast for a mainstream truck like this. It's going to really surprise a lot of people who have never driven an all-electric car. Remember, this is an all-electric truck. It's going to be attracting a lot of new customers into showrooms. I also think that Ford did it right by offering the crew cab configuration with a short bed. Now, I know there are probably people out there that are going to want a different cab configuration. Ford hasn't said that they're not going to offer that in the future, and they may even offer different bed lengths to accommodate those people who do want a little bit more choices. This Lariat trim that I'm showing you is kind of the sweet spot, although I do think that Ford needs to expand the trim lineups, which they probably will, and I wouldn't be surprised if they even offered a higher performance version of the Lightning, because as you guys know with electric vehicles, there's always room to add more power and add more range. Now, obviously, I'm not going to be able to tell you guys what I got in the real world. I'll have to wait until I actually extensively test one for a week where we can do a real world range test on the truck. But let's go ahead and talk about the pricing of this vehicle, because F-150s are certainly not a cheap proposition. However, when Ford first launched this vehicle or talked about this truck, they said it'll start at under $40,000, and that is still the case. If you guys are a contractor, you can actually purchase an F-150 Lightning Pro, which starts at just under $40,000, $39,974. For the base model. Keep in mind, if you guys want the extended range battery pack, that's an extra $10,000 on all of the trim. So it's a pretty hefty jump. Now, most of you who aren't contractors can purchase the XLT model. The XLT model is technically the base on the consumer grade. That starts at just over $52,000. Again, that's for the base battery pack. So you're talking about 230 miles of range and about 452 horsepower, which is plenty of power for the standard range battery pack. This Lariat version that I'm showing you is more the luxury-oriented model. It adds the leather seats, the 20-inch wheels, the unique styling, and the grille. This vehicle starts at $67,000. However, when you add in that 312 Ape or the 312 Lariat upgrade package, which is like another $9,000, and the $10,000 upgrade for the battery, this one here with the spray and bed liner stickers for a grand total of $81,000. 81 grand is really expensive. This makes the Lightning probably around $10,000 to $15,000 more than a comparably gas-powered truck. And the gas-powered truck obviously is going to give you better range because it runs on gas, and who knows what it'll do better in the real world for towing. Electric trucks are still kind of new, and there's a lot of concern about how these vehicles are actually going to tow out in the real world if you're actually going to tow over long distances. If you guys want to fully max out a Lightning, you can buy the Platinum grade for a little over $90,000 with basically all the options. So it's a lot of money, but keep in mind this truck still qualifies for the $7,500 federal tax credit, although Ford is probably going to run out at some point later this year or early next year, so that's something that we have to kind of watch. This truck also could qualify for up to $12,500 in credits if that bill gets passed. We don't know if that's going to be the case, but again, because it's built in America, because Ford also says that they have the ability to build 150,000 of these a year, and they also said that they also have around 200,000 pre-orders, I suspect you're going to be seeing a lot of these out on the road, and you may not even realize it's the Lightning because Ford did such a great job with the styling and making it look like a conventional truck. But with all that said, hope you guys have enjoyed my full overview on the brand new 2022 Ford F-150 Lightning. If you're also looking to see the latest cars I'm testing, be sure to follow me on Instagram at redline_reviews, like us on Facebook, and as always, guys, please keep subscribing to the Redline Reviews YouTube channel for all the latest reviews. Thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you all in the next video.